Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes just landed a commitment from another trenches player, a defensive lineman out of Michigan, and it's something we have to talk about, pretty significant. But before we dive into it, guys, go ahead, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, jump down in the comments below, and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. What do you think about the commitment of Brandon Davis-Swain, the 6'4", 235, or the 230-pound defensive end from Detroit, Michigan? So, as I just said, Brandon Davis-Swain has committed to Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the Colorado Buffaloes. This one is significant because where Brandon Davis-Swain had taken numerous visits to Michigan and other schools, a lot of people thought that this recruitment was trending in Michigan's favor because, well, 4 unofficial visits there, 4 unofficial visits to Notre Dame, and only 1 unofficial to Colorado. Yeah, you wouldn't have given them a whole big of a chance there. However, he gets that official visit set on the 10th. He takes the visit, and ultimately Coach Prime and this staff, specifically Nick Williams and Charles Kelley, they're able to come in and close the deal, right? They're able to shut the door on USC, Purdue, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Now, the interesting thing here is we're going to have to see if Brandon Davis-Swain actually ends up not taking those official visits to Michigan and Purdue, because I still believe if he takes an official visit to Michigan, that's going to be your biggest pain point. Being a kid from West Bloomfield, Michigan, right? Growing up, seeing the Michigan Wolverines, being that school that dominates your state, if Michigan comes in and they give you the right pitch, it's going to be hard to turn them down. And so for a Colorado Buffalo fan, you're really hoping that ultimately he doesn't end up taking those officials. But being able to go out there and beat a school in Michigan and beat schools like Notre Dame and USC in a recruitment for a defensive lineman, where this is not something that Coach Prime has been known for, that's a big deal. And this is why when you watch our videos, we talk so highly of a guy like Nick Williams, who at Texas A&M did a great job helping recruit some of those defensive linemen there. Or if you go look at Charles Kelley and what Charles Kelley was able to do while he at his time in Alabama, and, well, I guess in his time anywhere, he's done nothing but highly recruit 5-star players to whatever school he's been at. And there's no doubt in my mind that Charles Kelley won't be able to not bring that same success to Colorado. And so you look at it. Now Brandon is having to move away 1,100 miles from home. What you think about this for a second? 1,100 miles from home. Coach Prime's pitch was appealing enough to get a kid to move 1,100 miles away, where Michigan was only 31 miles away from home. It's just a drive down the road to go get dinner from his parents' house. Instead, he's choosing to move to Colorado. Now, the cold is probably not going to play a factor because, well, it's cold in Michigan. So I'm curious to see if you look at a guy like Aiden Breland, right? A guy that is at modern day in California, a guy that is a 5-star in the 247 rankings, and in the 247 composite, he's right there. You look at him being from a warm-weathered state, would he be interested in going to a place like Colorado? But if you're Colorado and you're able to win that recruitment, then you're setting yourself up for future success up across the board, because you're going to have won a recruitment over the likes of Elijah Robinson in Texas A&M, the Georgia Bulldogs, the 2-time reigning national champions. You'd be winning over Miami and Oregon, who have been known to just throw out bags. Now, I mean, it's still Dan Lanning. You would win a recruitment over the godfather of defensive line recruiting in Larry Johnson. Not to mention, you'd win over Alabama and Holman Wiggins and Freddie Roach. Yes, you win an Aiden Breland, and I think it changes the direction of how we look at defensive line recruiting at Colorado, where, let's be honest, In the 2024 class, you've gotten some good players, but you don't have that 5-star. And we mentioned those guys, but there are still the Michigans, the LSUs, the Oklahomas, the Tennessees, the Texases of the world, where Aiden Breland has 25 offers, and they're almost all from elite schools. Colorado and Nick Williams and Charles Kelley would be winning out over all of those. And then all of a sudden, Coach Prime and Colorado are put on the map because we all asked the question, wait, so you did land a Brandon Davis-Swain, and you did land an Omar White, but how did you land an Aiden Breland? Now, when you look at some of the other recruitments that Colorado could be in on the defensive line, and I think this is important to look at, it's important to note that now that T.A. Cunningham is moving to Miami, Florida, it's going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have to go up against Miami. And, well, T.A. Cunningham has over 62 offers. So he's wanted by a lot of schools in the country. But ultimately, a lot of people believe now T.A. Cunningham probably going to be a Hurricane. Probably going to be a part of whatever Mario Cristobal is doing down there at Miami. But there are still recruitments that Colorado can win to really put up a solid class. One of those being Jericho Johnson out of Fairfield, California, the 6'4", 300-pound defensive lineman. Right now, it looks like the top two there is going to be Washington and Miami. But if Colorado, you can sneak in there, which we've talked about before. If you're Colorado, you have to be able to recruit the state of California really well. You can't just go on the wayside, try to go to the East Coast, try to go to Texas. You're going to have to go out and you're going to have to recruit the West Coast, and you're going to have to recruit California. And I get it. USC's out there. They're becoming more of a rising powerhouse. But you're freaking Coach Prime and Charles Kelley and Nick Williams and Tim Brewster. Y'all have a big enough staff and a set of recruiters to where you can go out there and you guys can put together an incredible class, and not just a defensive line class, but a class in general. And so I look at it. You guys got Eric Brantley, the 6'2", 250-pound defensive lineman. And right now, Colorado's looking really good. You're looking really good. You're focusing on the trenches. You're building in the trenches, and that's what matters. Offensive line, defensive line. If you have those two things, the development of this team, the growth of this team, what this team's identity will be is only going to grow, and it's only going to get better. People will take you seriously if you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line. Because if you have those two things, it fills the gaps in other areas where you might be missing skilled players. You can get a 3-star quarterback, have a good offensive line in front of him. That 3-star quarterback's probably going to perform because he doesn't have to worry about being hit. If you have a defensive line that is constantly applying pressure and getting to the quarterback, if you have issues with your linebacker or your secondary, with that defensive line, it hides some of those issues. So, guys, I want to hear from you. Go ahead, jump down in the comments below, and I want to know, what are your guys' thoughts on Brandon Davis-Swain committing to Colorado? Additionally, who do you guys think Colorado is still going to go get on the defensive line? Because they're going to have to take a pretty big class on that defensive line.